Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is October the 24th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. I will say up top, I'm still sick. One of my coworkers asked me, he's like, "Hey, Isaiah, you got a cold or something?" And I felt so ashamed for some reason. I don't know why, but I was like, "Yeah, I've been sick." Blah 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 blah. So yeah, hopefully I'm gonna get through this sooner than later. But overall, today was okay. Just a cough for the most part, little throat soreness. But we're moving, we're grooving. Let's see. Work was pretty good. No real complaints, anything like that. Let's see. Food corner. I had a little soup mode, soup day, soup night, I should say. Though I will say this was like a Progresso gumbo and sausage with some rice, and I don't know. When I hear gumbo, I think stew, which is a stew and a soup the same? I don't know. Are they synonymous? I don't know. I once had a conversation with a friend about chili and soup, and I thought they were the same, and we did this whole deep dive, and then we came to the conclusion, no. Isaiah, you're wrong. It's actually different. Chili is chili, soup is soup. So, I don't know what to believe in anymore. That's what I'm saying. But needless to say, I had that. I spiced it up, gave it a little bit of a kick, little pow. And then I made a salad. It was with some blue cheese dressing and some Thousand Islands dressing, and kind of mixed them up a bit and put them on the salad. It turned out pretty good. It was yummy. So yeah, overall, good night into a good day for me. Now we're back here podcasting. Yes, yes, yes. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and do our startup, and we'll go ahead and get into some news. Bit of a bigger episode, it looks like. We'll see how we get through it. Also, I feel like it's like complicated stuff that I'm probably gonna get wrong, so mea culpa in advance. You know. Here at the newsstand, I am known for tackling things above my pay grade. Sorry, I bumped the mic. But we do our best. We do our best. Oh, there's that cough I was talking about. Yes, that cough only from my cold and no other reason. From The Guardian. At least 17 people killed in Israeli strike on school turned shelter in Nusrat. At least 17 people, nearly all women and children, have been killed in an Israeli bombing of a school turned shelter in the Nusrat refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip, medics in the territory have said. The strike, the latest bombing of a school sheltering displaced people across Gaza, came as the Qatari television network Al Jazeera accused Israel of turning its journalists reporting from North Gaza into targets after the Israeli military claimed a day earlier that 6 reporters were members of Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which is crazy for them to be so bold faced about it. We've talked about this before, but the IDF are notorious for targeting journalists because they do not want these stories to get told. They do not want these stories to get out because why? They're their atrocities. They don't want you guys to know about this shit firsthand. And at the end of the day, that's bad. That's a bad look for them. So it's much easier to say, hey, these guys are working with Hamas, they're working with terrorists, and they're bad people. One, you should not believe them. Two, they deserve to die. That is essentially the narrative they are trying to always fucking push. But I say this is bold because they literally put up like a poster, like a bounty, like these guys are wanted, on some Bon Jovi shit. So it's very fucked up that they're trying to fucking pull this shit. And it definitely seems like they always find a way to get away with doing it. But let's see here. I wanted to move a little bit further ahead. Rescue efforts were still underway at the school in Nusrat camp, said Mahmoud Basal, a spokesperson for Gaza's civil defense agency. The Israeli military said the school was being used as a Hamas command and control center. Of course. And we just need one good precision strike, and we'll deal with all of that. Of course, fucking shit. Another 42 people were wounded in the strike in the overcrowded camp, according to nearby Al-Wada Hospital, which received the casualties. Among the dead were 13 children under the age of 18 and 3 women, it said. From there, I know I'm kind of keeping it short, but let's go ahead and move on to the next story. I just at least wanted to get that in there, so we talked about it. Moving to Turkey, from CNN, 5 killed, 22 injured in terror attack on Turkish aerospace company. Scroll down. If it'll let me. Oop. All right. Armed assailants launched a deadly terror attack on Turkey's state-run aerospace company near the capital Ankara on Wednesday, government officials said. At least 5 people were killed and 22 injured in the terrorist attack on the Turkish Aerospace Industries, or TUSAS, headquarters in the outskirts of Ankara, said Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya. 2 attackers, a man and a woman, were killed, he added. Among the dead were 4 TUSAS employees and the taxi driver who drove the assailants to the facility, according to the Turkish Vice President Kavit Yilmaz. Very unfortunate too for the taxi driver. He was killed and then put into the trunk, and then they went. I know it says here too that they shot one of the women that was killed, was coming out to get flowers, I believe, from her husband, and she was killed. And I believe there was 3 others. So obviously very unfortunate, very sad. Let's see. Both assailants were members of the militant Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PPK, according to Turkish Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya on Thursday, after the government confirmed their identities. The PPK, a Kurdish separatist group which is classified as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the European Union, and the United States, has not taken responsibility for the attack. On Wednesday, Turkish Minister Yasar Güler told reporters, "We, Turkey, punish the dishonorable PPK members as they deserve over and over again, but they never seem to learn." Also, it's worth noting, too, apparently they were trying to work out a deal where the PPK member or leader, actually I found it. The attack occurred a day after the leader of Turkey's nationalist movement party brought up Kurdish relations in parliament, where he suggested offering to release the PPK's jailed leader if he disbanded the organization, Reuters reported, which is a non-starter. Also, I know that I've said this before, and I'm sadly going to say this again, that I am still not equipped to really explain the best way the conflict between the Kurdish people and Turkey and all the shit that goes into it, and it just requires a lot of time that I feel like my 20 to 30 minute podcast really does not always allow. But yeah, it is a very complex, it is a very hard situation to really run down. That being said, that's not me trying to make any kind of excuses or, any kind of violence like this. It's very unfortunate to see and, to wind up covering. And my condolences goes out to the people involved in this, people who've lost lives, family members, things of that nature. The taxi driver's name was Murat Arslan. Also, I know I'm going to get this name wrong, but the woman that I had mentioned was Zahide Gluklu. And I know I'm getting that name wrong as fuck, and I'm sorry about that. But yeah, she was trying to get flowers from her husband when the attack took place, which is very sad. But yeah, it's a very complex situation because I know the little bit I know about it is that the Kurdish people have lost everything. They lost their land. They're losing their culture, and I say losing but it's something where it's literally it's your band, your language, your way of life. You cannot have it in Turkey, at least from what I've learned a little bit, the scan I'm out. And you can just understand how these situations breed the worst outcomes. You know what I mean? Where people are well, we don't have anything. We don't have anywhere to go. What can we do? And so you fight. Once again, that's not me trying to absolve that or excuse, the situation at hand. But this is an international thing. Everywhere you go, you have these issues. So it's time and time again. It's also worth mentioning Erdogan was not around. He was actually doing some BRICS stuff, some international stuff. The attack occurred while Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, putting my thumb down there, boo, was in the Russian city of Kazan to attend the annual BRICS summit. He condemned the hateful attack alongside Russian President Vladimir Putin, who Erdogan thanked for his condolences. Erdogan referred to the incident in a post on X as a vile attack that targeted the country's survival and defense initiatives. I extend my best wishes to our nation and the devoted employees of TUSIS, the source of pride for our defense industry, the Turkish president wrote. Obviously there's definitely more here. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move along. There's a lot, but that's why I always source this if you want to read more. They did put out a broadcast ban, which is something I don't fucking like in any of these situations, because essentially that's very much censorship. You're saying, hey, you guys can't talk about it, only state media can, which is something that it's like, if Russia did that, we wouldn't like it. But this is a NATO country we're talking about. This is something that European nations and the U.S. back to the hilt. Even though, like I said before, with Erdogan and Turkey, they play both sides, so they always come out on fucking top here. But they get to move like this, and it's okay because they're fine, they're cool, they're damn near European, no? So once again, I get the logic that you're using here. It's like, hey, we don't want you guys to spread any false rumors or fake news about this, but also it's like you're essentially saying you guys can't talk about it. The only narrative that exists and will be put out is our narrative. And that's fucked up. Like, that's not the way that it should be. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be hearing my podcast in Turkey. Let's say that. Because, I couldn't talk about it, for sure. Obviously that's something I have a problem with anywhere. Not just in Turkey, but, any fucking spot on the map. You tell me, and I'm like, ew, that's gross. Yucky. That's an ick for me. All right. I think that is where I did want to leave it, though. I feel like we've done it. We said it. All right, let's get to another thing that is a bit of a sticky wicket for your boy. Getting this from the Daily Item. I will say, initially got this from the Los Angeles Times, and I've been hearing rumblings about it throughout, I want to say for like a week and a half or so. I don't want to say I'm excited to talk about it, but it's definitely an interesting happening that's going on here. So let's go ahead and dig in. Los Angeles County DA, District Attorney, backs resentencing Menendez brothers, paving possible path to freedom. Los Angeles County District Attorney George Cascon will ask a judge to resentence Eric and Lyle Menendez, two brothers serving life terms for killing their parents, a move that could pave the way for their release. Gascon will request the brothers' prior sentence of life without the possibility of parole be rescinded and instead be sentenced for murder. This would make them immediately eligible for parole, he said during a news conference Thursday. So when I was hearing about this, it didn't fully click for me that it's like, oh, if the prosecutor just makes this decision, it more or less just isn't locked, because for the judge, once he hears that, like, the prosecution, obviously the defense is okay with this, they're okay with the terms, essentially the Menendez brothers will be able to leave, will be able to get out of jail, then it's like, it's just going to come down to the prosecutor making this decision, unless the judge does get funky. In that case, we will probably come back and talk about it then in a little bit more detail. But let's see. I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate, and I'm going to recommend that, Gascon said. I believe they have paved their debt to society. So I guess we should get to the actual act. This is obviously some news that you could say is historical, right? The brothers were sentenced to life without parole after a jury found them guilty of killing their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, in their Beverly Hills home with a pair of shotguns. The 1989 killings and the televised trial that followed has sparked documentaries, movies, and television series that have made the brothers two of the most publicly recognizable convicts. The brothers have pursued appeals for years without success, but now they could have a path for freedom. We're just going to keep reading here so I can kind of fully, establish kind of what happened here. In 1989, Eric and Lyle Menendez bought a pair of shotguns with cash, walked into their Beverly Hills homes, and shot their parents while they watched a movie in their family living room. Prosecutors said Jose Menendez was struck 5 times, including in the back of the head, and Kitty Menendez crawled on the floor wounded before the brothers reloaded and fired a final blast. Prosecutors argued the slayings were driven by the greed of the brothers' desire to get their parents' multi-million-dollar estate. During the trials, Eric and Lyle Menendez detailed what they said were years of violent sexual abuse at the hands of their father. Earlier this month, more than 20 relatives of the brothers pleaded at a news conference for them to be released. More than a dozen family members were also present as Gascon announced his decision Thursday. "We know this wasn't an easy decision, but it's the right one," said Joan Vandermolen, Kitty Menendez's sister. This is about truth, justice, and healing. Now, I gotta say, I have seen just one of the many of these documentaries. I can't remember what it was, but the way I would describe it, because I can't remember it, is it was the same people who made like the OJ trial case, and like they did like a really dramatic retelling of it. I had seen the same people who made that. They made the same kind of thing about the trial of the Menendez brothers, which was very intense and very, but at the same time, it was very, like, sensationalized. But, even looking back on it, I feel like they did do a good job. I've seen at least, like, one documentary on it. And it is a very fascinating case because it's one of those situations where no one is debating, did the Menendez brothers kill their family members? Did they kill their parents? Did they commit patricide here? Yes, check, they did that. The reasoning, though, is, like, they were sexually abused violently. And I think, especially when I watched it, I think I just had just so much different like idea of how justice should work and be. So I definitely felt like, well, okay, I'm hearing that you guys were abused, potentially, allegedly. We don't know that. Maybe this is just an angle. And this is where I kind of go back to the sensationalism thing, because you can kind of go back to some of it where they're like, it almost seems like they're really prepping this angle in this narrative in a way. But at the same time, it's like, this is what happened. And like, if a jury hears this, they're gonna feel a different way about, why they did what they did. Despite the fact that it's like, yeah, they did take the money, like they did, immediately after the murder, they were like joyriding or whatever. And, they were spending money, but it's like, well, what are you going to do? You're not just going to sit in the house and like curl up in a ball. Like, I killed my parents. Like, they did maybe have plans to continue living on their lives. What's wrong with that? But I think once again, when I was younger, I kind of took that as like, that feels really guilty. It feels like, that's not okay. That's not all right. And it is that ultimate thing of like, well, once again, we do know that they committed a murder. Like, was this the way to go about it? And, it's like, well, yeah, but were they thinking clearly? No, these are traumatized individuals. And this is where I feel like I personally have, like, grown up, because I can kind of see now why people are like, oh, yeah, no, this wasn't okay. And, like, yeah, they've done a lot of time in prison, but they've definitely grown. They've definitely, done a lot in terms of, like, working for other people who, are incarcerated, trying to do, good work for them and things of that nature. Like, I don't know. I definitely feel like I've kind of softened with, I guess the release of this newer Netflix, I don't know what you would call it. I don't want to say expose, but that's the word. It's the only word that's popping in my mind at the time. But I feel like that definitely got a younger generation looking at this, and it definitely got more and more people, more and more eyeballs back on it with maybe new thoughts and feelings, saying like, yeah, maybe they shouldn't have life without parole here. Like, maybe that really should have been considered, and it was less of an angle and more of like the actual reality. And if we were to try this shit today, people would say, yeah, these are traumatized kids. They made a mistake. They're going to go to jail, but like, this should be factored. There was something I was steamrolling here. In the trial that took place, it was a hung jury. And that's major, right? Because usually when you have a hung jury, it kind of means like, yeah, you don't really have it here. Like, you can't lock in this case. If you do this again, it's not going to work. But for the prosecution at the time, they were like, okay, pause, wait, you guys shouldn't have been able to bring in that sexual abuse evidence. Like, that shouldn't have been used at all. Like, it's only confirmed by these brothers, even though there was I'm bringing up old shit. You got to hop in the way back, unless the old heads know. There was a band called Menudo, and one of the performers was actually related. Let's see. I think I actually found it here. Good. Oh, I'm on it right now. The filing included a letter from a letter Eric Menendez sent to his cousin in December of 1988, 8 months before the killings, that appeared to corroborate the claims of abuse. It also included a declaration from Roy Rosello, a member of the boy band Menudo, who alleged that Jose Menendez raped him in 1984 when he was 13 or 14 years old. So once again, there was claims of this, and that's what led to that hung jury. But they said, no, strike that. We can't do that in the next trial. And the judge said, okay, that's fine. And essentially the next trial led to a conviction, because that was very pivotal testimony, very pivotal evidence that, if you hear that as a jury, you go, oh, this is a big reason on why these kids maybe snapped and did that shit. But once again, I really do feel like the times have changed, and people have really kept looking at this case, looking at the Menendez brothers, and they're like, yeah, they should go. They should be let out. So, and I think even myself, I feel like I've softened on it, whereas like it's weird because once again, like you would think it would be the opposite for a human being to be like more open-minded as a child, and then like with the time and the jade, you get rougher and like closed off. But like, I don't know, I'm way more online. I learn a lot. I see a lot more of people's perspectives, and I think the biggest thing for me is I'm just not in this like very religious only like point of view, way of living. Like I just don't view it in the sense of like, oh no, you have to like put in Abrahamic laws and logic to this conversation, to this thought experiment that you're doing. Like I just don't really do that as much now at the age of 34, as opposed to me at like 18 and excommunicated from church or whatever. I still had those vibes and those feelings of like, no, yeah, people make mistakes, but, justice is a thing. You got to go through, blah, 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 blah. But even so, my black ass still knew that jail was bad and, like, the system was still fucked, at least in some kind of capacity. But anyway, I will definitely keep you guys posted if, however the judge winds up ruling post this. I guess I should add, too, from Gascon. And also, not everyone is on board. I believe there is at least some sibling, I don't have his name at the ready here, who is essentially like, no, I wasn't notified about this. I'm not okay about this. And then also people who are running against Gascon for, his position, because this is an elected position, are saying, this is awfully suspect that he's making this like big decision, this big move to like, do this resentencing when he's like losing against me in the polls like 30%. And it's like, okay, I mean, that is relevant. That isn't nothing, but at the same time, sometimes politics and, doing the right thing do coalesce, believe it or not. So, I think that's something to really, I guess, think through, think over. I don't know. But anyway, here. Oh, sorry if you're hearing that trampling upstairs. I don't know what's going on. A little stampede action. Yeah, okay, we're good. We're at the bottom here. I feel like I've said enough. Let's go ahead and move on to the next bump, next thing. Jesus Christ. I always have speculations of what my neighbors are doing upstairs. Are they doing this in protest to me podcasting? Is this... Because it does happen, at other times, at random points of the night. But anyway, I'm in the weeds. I'm sorry. This is from The Takedown, or on Sports Illustrated. That's a mouthful. New lawsuit filed against Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon, and TKO Group Holdings regarding Ring Boy scandal. Now, I didn't know what a ring boy was. I was like, wait, is like a ring boy like kind of how like you have like ring... like ladies in the UFC or something? Was I always missing that as a kid? Like, and it's like, no. A ring boy is like a water boy. So essentially someone who helps out, motherfuckers in, backstage or whatever, get them the things that they need, at least how I'm learning. I'm learning this shit via this article. But anyway, a new lawsuit has been filed against Vince McMahon this morning. Fightful Fightful reported a new lawsuit filed against Mr. McMahon, his wife Linda McMahon, and TKO Group Holdings by 5 former ring boys who have accused former WWE employees of sexual abuse. The lawsuit filed on behalf of John Doe's 1 through 5 by Gicello Levitt and Murphy, Falcon, and Murphy claims that the former WWE employees Mel Phillips and Terry Garvin abused ring boys who were hired to assist with errands and other items, and that Mr. and Mrs. McMahon were aware of the abuse but did nothing to stop it. The underage ring boys were groomed, exploited, and sexually abused by Phillips, who targeted children from broken homes. His sexual assaults occurred not only at wrestling venues, but also in hotel rooms and other locations where Phillips would shuttle the boys in plain sight. Defendants were fully aware of the systematic and pervasive abuse and did nothing to prevent it to stop, the suit claims. In 1992, Mr. Phillips and Mr. Garvin were accused of having inappropriate contact with Tom Cole, a former ring boy. Pat Peterson was also accused in Mr. Cole's complaint. All 3 resigned from the WWE in the wake of the accusations. Mr. Garvin died in 1998, Mr. Phillips died in 2012, and Mr. Patterson died in 2020. Mr. Cole died in 2021. So that's why these people probably are not implicated now, not being charged now, because that would be like post-Thomas. And right now this is about, getting, this is a civil lawsuit. It's about getting the bag. Let's just be real. But the full suit filed in it's not just about getting the bag. Let me say that. I feel like that's being a little crass. It's about getting the bag for sure, but it's also about you're proving this. Like, you're going through this whole fucking thing to make sure it's like, look, this is on the record that what happened did happen. Okay? So I do feel like that's important to mention, right? The full suit filed in Baltimore County Circuit Court this morning can be read here, so you can click the link if you'd like. Editor's note, the text of the lawsuit contains graphic content. Reader discretion is strongly advised. So there you go. Just know it gets a little wicked in there. Vince McMahon was the former CEO and executive chairman of TKO Group Holdings, the company created after the 2023 merger of WWE and UFC. Mr. McMahon resigned from the company in January of 2024 after a lawsuit filed by Janelle Grant. Miss Grant, who worked for the WWE between 2019 and 2022, filed her lawsuit against Mr. McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and the WWE on January 2025. Something we've covered before. If you want to ever go back and, here's some of my thoughts on that at the time. But Mr. McMahon has denied all allegations. Mr. Laurinaitis, through counsel, has denied all wrongdoing and stated he was also a victim. All right. So yeah, that's that as we know it. I will definitely keep you posted on that. Adding to the lawsuit, pile for the McMahon. I guess you can say family now. Yeah. Whew. So yeah, we have one more thing I wanted to cover. I almost forgot to put this on the list, and I was like, shit. Let's go ahead and put it up here because it's important. So, wanted to make sure I didn't go throughout the day without at least getting this one in. Whew. Let me go ahead and take my last break, though, and we'll go ahead and close it out. Whew. From CBS News, Boeing mechanics reject new contract continuing costly walkout. Oh, my bad. Ooh. So the strike's not over, folks. I gotta say, in my recording, for these 3+ years so far now, this is my first time that we've covered a conclusion in italics, or an agreement by the union, and then you take it to the vote and they go, nah, this ain't it, chief, we gotta keep working. So, very interesting times. And I'm for it, because at the end of the day, what do I fucking say? This is about getting what is yours, what is rightfully yours. This is what a union is about. This is why you go through the process. So it's like, yeah, the people up top were like, okay, this is something I think we can bring back to our people and they'll be okay with it. But in this situation, in that part of the process, you do it and they're like, nah, this ain't it. Y'all, this isn't okay. And they vote no. Boeing mechanics on Wednesday voted to reject a new labor contract proposal and continue a costly weeks-long strike that halted production of some of the embattled company's top-selling planes, resulting in furloughs and layoff announcements for thousands of workers. The International Association of Mechanics and Aerospace Workers, or the IAM, announced on social media that 64% of the members voted to reject the deal, and that the strike will continue at all designated picket locations. The elected negotiation committee of workers did not recommend for or against this particular proposal. After 10 years of sacrifice, we still have ground to make up, and we're hopeful to do so by resuming negotiations promptly. Joe Holden, president of IAM District 751, and Brandon Bryant, president of IAM District W24, said in a joint statement. I mentioned this before, but the pensions did matter here. The lack of them is like, no, dude, we aren't stupid. And frankly, if you're not going to give us this pensions and just flat out, this isn't enough money. Like, there's a chance. And I heard at least one or two of the members, like, they, kind of asked them like what their thoughts were. They're like, this deal, if you had given us this deal at the top of this shit before we went on strike, maybe we'd have said yes to it, because it actually is like, all right, but like, we shouldn't have had to fight for just this. Now we want more. This is a dumb deal. Like, there was also other people just said flat out, like, no, this is stupid. Like, no, we don't want it. And I love that. Like, at the end of the day, once again, you get to read what you're getting, and you're saying, is this slop or is this what we want? Is this good? And essentially they said, no, this is fucking slop. And they said, nah, we're good. And they're back to the picket line. So I will definitely keep you posted on what comes from this. I mean, Boeing's got to let it bleed. At the end of the day, like, if they don't want to give these people what they fucking want, they're going to keep losing money. They're going to keep losing billions by the month. That's on them. On top of the other fucking shit that we've covered pretty prolifically at this fucking point. You know what I mean? Like, shit, at this point, you got to fucking stop the fucking killing whistleblower accusations. It's that bad for Boeing. You know what I mean, dude? You got SpaceX beating you in space for space taxis. It's not good right now. Stocks are taking hits. Okay. All right. Also, just a bit of side news before we go ahead and close this out. Segue on out of here with more news. Why not? Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. For the E. coli McDonald's bit, it's looking like it's narrowing down to the onions. I know in the states like that were, experiencing E. coli cases in the outbreak, I think they've like stopped the quarter pounder altogether, which is definitely a bummer, but I get it. You don't want to catch that shit off of that for sure. But then it's also like, wait, you're not like discontinuing them, temporarily from like every location. That would be a little scary. I don't know. But I'm sure they're like, saying it's like, well, it's from this area and, we just, traced it all back. We're getting to the bottom of it. So a little bit of side news there. I didn't want to make a whole whole thing about it. But yeah, that's it. That's where we're going to leave it for today. Whole lot of news. Went a little bit over, but that's okay. Even the BBC does that. Though I will say here, a bit of an aside, really in the weeds here, like, I count it because I'm like, how are you guys doing so many like stories in this like 30-minute, 35 usually tops amount of time? Y'all, they do about like 12 stories, 10 to 12 stories or so. And I'm like, I can barely fit in like 4 or 5 and not go over 30 and then blab about my life for maybe like 5 minutes. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're really doing Doctor Who shit. It's just bigger on the inside with the episode. They're doing weird timey-wimey shit. That's all I got to say. That's a bit extra and you didn't ask for that, but you're in my head right now. Okay. That's just how this goes. Anyway, if you'd like to help out and support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. Shout out to the top of the month. Plug your project if you like. Free ways to hit me up, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials you're on. I'm probably there too. Subscribe to the YouTube. Really helps out a lot. Shout out to the 2 subscribers we got. Love to see it. We're sitting at 82 now. Hell yeah. That's a great free way to help out. Also, liking, leaving a nice comment, sharing. All these things are really good for my algorithm. Gives me a little bit of a boost. And, we just love to see it. But really, I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.